Quarterback or coach has to answer for it.
Right.
Goff, Campbell. Listen, I'm not firing Dan Campbell already. I might be shipping Goff. I don't know, but I think the Lions, again, it's week 1. Are we overreacting? I think the panic meter in Detroit is blaring. I think people are wondering, when do the Pistons start?
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
If a game is on the line,
give me the Navy kicker.
Oh,
the guy's going into battle in 2 weeks. He can't make an extra point. Come on.
From a mindset perspective,
yeah.
I'm not. Listen, we thank them for their service. I love them. Okay.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, if you have a bet and you have an academy kicker with a field goal or an extra point, you got to hold your breath.
27 yards. You know
27 yards. The kid shanked it from like 30.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
To your point, Greg, if anybody else is able to make a dent, it'll have to happen now. ESPN has had about 3% market share. Their goal is to get to 10% by next year. So if they can't make a big push this year and really see a lot of the new features that they put on their apps, a lot of the integrations with ESPN fantasy products, with ESPN, flagship products across the board, if those don't pay off soon this football season, it might be curtains for them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
I'd give them no excuses for the mistakes that Lamar and that team made when they played Buffalo in the playoffs last year. But I do think they've done enough to improve the team in the offseason. I think the offense was way better. The defensive line and the offensive line played really well in the back half of the year last year. Almost all.
CBS says they had the highest-rated NFL Week 1 ever. Plus, NBA owners and Adam Silver meet to discuss the Clippers scandal. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today from FOS Studios here in New York City. I'm Baker Machado.
And I'm Renee Washington, and thanks so much for joining us. Each and every weekday, we chat the biggest stories happening in the business and culture of sports. Plus, we're going to introduce you to the Cocaine Quarterback, the new Prime Video documentary that drops soon. But first, let's drop right into the shoot-around.
Very good, Renee. Yeah, let's start here in New York, where NBA officials and team owners met today for a scheduled Board of Governors meeting that included discussion of the scandal involving the LA Clippers and star Kawhi Leonard on salary cap circumvention. Now, FrontOfficeSports.com will have full coverage of the meeting, including the commissioner's comments to reporters. Additionally, the NBA is conducting its own investigation into gambling allegations against Malik Beasley, with Beasley's attorney saying that the free agent is fully cooperating with the investigation. This, Renee, just after saying in August that he was no longer a target in that federal investigation into this same matter.
Yeah, that's what's interesting about this, because federally we thought he was cleared, but the NBA still wanting to do some more digging, especially since he was involved in potentially, allegedly, the actual gambling allegations themselves. But the interesting part of this, as well as all the investigation, is that Malik Beasley actually posted on Instagram this teaser that the news of where he's going to be landing in free agency should be dropping soon, because his 1-year, $6 million contract with the Pistons is done. He's on free agency right now. He was supposed to get that 3-year deal for as many as like $42 million. So now as a free agent, he's focusing on that. But here comes the NBA with the investigation.
And you have to think most owners and general managers will not do anything with Beasley until they know he's cleared from that NBA investigation. Well, on this exact same topic here, the NCAA is saying that they permanently suspended 3 men's basketball players from San Jose State and Fresno State. This for betting on each other's games during the 2024-25 regular season. The NCAA says 2 of the student athletes manipulated their performances on the court, all to ensure that certain bets were won, including one with a payout of close to $16,000 on a $2,200 bet, all on that underperformance. Now, the 3 players were released from their respective teams, and Renee, they're no longer enrolled at their schools either.
Yeah, and I hope that with the NIL era, college athletes would go through the legal professional ways to build their financial portfolio. But as we're seeing with all of these stories, college and pro sports betting is prevalent, especially for players. But you will get caught. There were records indicating they were texting each other. They were planning out how they were going to be performing and what to bet on. And as you mentioned, it's anywhere from a couple $100s here and there to up to about $16,000. They were all 3 students at Fresno State at one point before one did transfer out. So friends, former roommates, former teammates that got involved in this scandal, and all good money is not good money, especially quick money.
Totally, and if anything, this is only going to make more people who have said that prop bets should be illegal on college sports, get rid of that. This is only going to keep that drumbeat going louder.
And the NCAA has removed all their eligibility. That is a rule for any athlete involved in any sort of sports betting investigation, but also, as we know, out of school as well. So you're not playing basketball anymore, but you're also not enrolled in your respective schools. Is that worth it? No, absolutely not.
All right, meanwhile, the Women's 3-on-3 Basketball League Unrivaled are adding 2 new teams that ahead of their second season starting in January. This now gives the league 8 teams and a pool of 54 players to work with. The league also announced a new round of funding. This now values Unrivaled at $340 million. That's a tenfold increase just from last year. Additionally, Renee, the league is also going to add a 4th night of games each week, so no more back-to-backs for these players.
Some positive news
Yes.
to close out the shoot-around, because Unrivaled did originally say 2027 was when they planned to expand, but because of that $340 million number that we've heard in terms of investments, in their second round of Series B investments, they said they can move things up. So they already had, for players, about a 15% equity amongst the players. That also should increase through these investments. They have others involved with their different funds, such as Serena Williams and Alex Morgan and others. And so with this expansion, they now can have 54 players, including 6 players that are going to be practice players. They have more games, they have more teams, and of course, this is all on the heels, as we know, as the WNBA still having CBA negotiations, trying to avoid a lockout, that Unrivaled continues giving more players opportunities as well as financial pay they deserve.
Well, the broadcast networks opened the NFL season to some huge numbers. CBS says the big Lions-Packers matchup, their best Week 1 ratings ever. Plus, the U.S. Open broke some attendance records and giving ESPN their best finals in 10 years. So let's dive into the numbers in today's main event. Let's bring in FOS reporter Eric Fisher, who's been watching all of this. So, Eric, let's go through some of the ratings that we've seen so far from NBC, all the broadcast networks.
Yep.
But also, let's talk about the YouTube numbers for as well. It's sort of a weird sort of juxtaposition between the two.
Yeah, so as we're taping this, we don't have the ESPN Monday night numbers yet, but we have everybody else. And with the exception of YouTube, a lot of history across the board. CBS, their best Week 1 since they regained NFL rights in 1998. Fox and NBC, their best Week 1s in a decade. And so off to a really strong start. The YouTube situation, a bit of a different situation where there were up about 20% from the Brazil game last year, but given the free access to the game, not nearly as strong as was expected. But writ large, this really shows the power of Nielsen's Big Data Plus panel, the new measurement system that brings in a lot of additional data and is supposed to provide a fuller, more accurate view of the viewership market.
Yeah, something I thought was interesting is it wasn't just the prime time thrillers of the Ravens-Bills games that had great numbers, but even like Commanders-Giants showed well as well. And when you look at that in comparison to YouTube TV's numbers, you have a difference of measurement as well. So streaming versus the traditional platforms. What do you take away from how we see this big picture of, as the NFL is expanding in terms of broadcast deals, of how they can best measure? Because YouTube TV showed us low numbers, but also questionable measurements.
Yeah, this is the Amazon number this coming Thursday to kick off Week 2 with Packers Commanders. That's really going to be instructive to your point as to where we really see the next wave of streaming going, because these really strong numbers from the linear network shows that despite all the disruption in the market, the power of linear TV is still really, really there.
Let's move to tennis. Obviously, a great U.S. Open tournament for ESPN. They got the finals that they wanted, which was Alcaraz and Sinner. And it looks like, by all things considered, this was a really good ratings matchup as well.
Yeah, so both on the men's and the women's side. Women's final, you mentioned, they were up about 82%, best number in a decade. The women's final up by half. And again, this really shows the power of the new Nielsen measurement. And again, bringing in all of those additional data points and giving that fuller view. There's still a lot of debate out there as to whether even that accurately depicts the market, and the NFL in particular has been sort of banging on Nielsen. But as it relates to the tennis situation, a big history-making set of totals here, and it really kind of sets him up well for the future.
Well, of course, we're still waiting on some data, but we do also know this was U.S. Open and NFL Week 1 going up against each other, and yet we saw these record numbers. What do you make of just the way that people still are paying attention to linear channels and also tapped in with all these exciting sports moments happening at once?
Multi-view is a real thing.
Yes.
You know, a lot of the traditional carriers like Comcast are doing a better job offering that, but also just different fan bases. You know, we had a lot of internal debate here at the office as to whether that was really smart for the men's final to go up against that first NFL Sunday, and as it turns out, they're both fine. And it's just a great sports weekend. There was a lot of great baseball going on as well, and there's just room for everybody. And again, these kind of multi-view products out there, I think, really help a lot because I know a lot of people were doing the split screen thing.
And just back to the Open really quickly, I know we don't have the numbers yet, but are we expecting attendance to be really high as well?
Yes, it'll be another record. It was just shy of 1.1 million last year, something around 1.2, 1.3 this year. Certainly the extra day helps. They had a record number that they've already announced from the preceding fan week before the main draw. So once that final number comes in, it will be a record, but I think there's a qualitative issue there that it's sort of groaning a little bit under its own weight, and getting to and around the grounds is becoming more difficult than ever. I was there during the first week for one of the nights early in Alcaraz's run, and I had a hard time. A lot of people had a hard time, and I literally just stood on the LIR platform for 20 minutes just trying to get up the stairs to the boardwalk, and it's the same night as a Mets game, and so you got to take that into account as well. But we're sort of getting to that point where too much of a good thing could be too much.
Having gone 3 times over the Open last 2 weeks, I 100% agree with you. It was bananas, and all of them had their honeydews also, which is also important. Eric Fisher,
still delicious.
Yes, Eric, good to see you. Thank you so much as always. And coming up next, everyone, we're going to introduce you to the cocaine quarterback. How one guy who walked on the 2004 USC football team became a drug kingpin. We'll tell you his story next.
College football can't allow Notre Dame to have the type of, year they have and schedule they have, and honestly put them up against other teams. Because Notre Dame looks like they're going to be a decent football team. They could lose, I think, next week to Texas A&M, Joe. Right. I don't think it's a great football team, but still a ranked team. And then run the table and still be in the playoff and absolutely beat nobody. The worst schedule I may have ever seen in college football is Notre Dame this year.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
When the game is on the line and provide the kill shot to knock out an opponent. It's like they're afraid to put the Buffalo Bills away. The safer call was giving it to Derrick Henry and giving it to Lamar Jackson on the ground, as opposed to putting it in your MVP's hands and allowing him to make plays in the passing attack. I just don't understand it.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
So game 1, I already made a mistake. I put my touchdown prop bets in hours ago. When you and I started talking before kickoff, I got so excited and I bet him again without even thinking that I already did it.
I
was like, Jalen Hurts. I was like, and then I was like, wait, I think I already did this. And I scrolled down. I was like, yeah, you already did do this. And I was like, it's okay. That's okay.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Donnie, the season is 6 months, 5 if you check out in September. You're going to have a bad month. The Yankees had a horrible month. That is true. But beyond that, their regular season looks okay. They're going to win their 90 games or maybe a little bit more and get to the postseason. What is everybody freaking out about?
Everybody freaks out. It's a Yankee tax and a Yankee fan tax as well, where every single season you enter into the equation going like, it's championship or bust.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today. I'm Baker Machado. Prime Video is going to premiere a 3-part docuseries called Co-King Quarterback, Signal Caller for the Cartel on September the 25th. Now, the docuseries follows Owen Hansen, who went from being a walk-on for the 2004 National USC team to becoming one of the global cocaine kingpins out there. So joining us now in studio is Owen Hansen. Owen, thanks so much for joining us. So before we get into a little bit about the docuseries and a little bit more about college football, tell us a little bit more about your story and how you became known as the cocaine quarterback.
You know, it just started as, like you said, I was a walk-on at USC. I was actually a walk-on tight end, and it was all by accident. I came in on a volleyball scholarship, and unfortunately I got redshirted, and my coach said, hey, you need to work on your arm strength and your vertical jump. And I said, you know what, I'm going to work on that. And I ended up taking a ride to Tijuana and went down to the Pharmacia, which is meant for veterinarians, and I got on some anabolic steroids. And from there, I smuggled the anabolic steroids across the border and came back to USC, 50 pounds heavier. And instead of, going back into the volleyball world, I ended up walking onto the football team and was part of the last 2 national championships there under Pete Carroll. And, got 2 national championships rings to show it. And from there, my life took a turn. I ended up seeing my teammates going into the NFL, making these, multi-million-dollar contracts, and my fraternity brothers going and working for their fathers, making millions of dollars every year. And I was like, man, where do I fit in? I'm the son of a construction worker. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna graduate from USC, start using that degree, that networking, and that's what I started doing. I worked for a real estate developer. Within a couple years, making 6 figures, and I said, this is good, life's good. And then the recession hit in 2007, and the real estate market crashed, and here I am, lost my job, and I had to figure out something to do. And I said, man, I have the contacts, I have the football players, these kids that are all in the business now. I said, maybe I can be a bookie. Bookie would be good. So that's what I did. I became a bookie. I reached out to one of my father's friends, who's this Italian gangster, and he gave me a job working for a small percentage, and I started booking bets. And I booked bets for, my NFL friends, my A-list celebrity friends, my USC network, and next thing you know, I'm booking bets for one of the most infamous cartels in the world. And I blew this thing out of control and started my own office in Costa Rica. And from there, once I started taking these bets from the cartel, it spiraled out of control. I was laundering money for them. Next thing you know, I'm working for them internationally and becoming their cocaine quarterback and handling all their logistics throughout the United States, Canada, Australia, and basically calling the shots for them as far as where things need to be placed.
Wow. Owen, what a story and what a ride that you've been on. And I obviously a lot of people, especially college athlete stories, are very different, but the struggles for a lot of them, especially up until the last couple of years before NIL came into the picture, were similar in terms of how they were struggling or not able to sort of profit off of their fame in college. Do you feel like your story would have been different if NIL was around when you were playing at USC, that you would have been able to profit off of your name, that maybe you wouldn't have been able to get involved in all of this other stuff?
Yeah, no doubt. I don't think we'd be here today, right, telling my story. NIL's helped so many college athletes, from even the guys like myself who were walk-ons, are getting paid, 6 figures just through sponsorships, right? So, I used my ability to, sell steroids to my teammates, sell cocaine to my fraternity brothers. I used this just to survive. My dad was a construction worker. My mother was a librarian. We didn't come from money. So I had to survive, and I found that the only way I could survive playing 2 sports and going to school was to learn the art of the hustle, and that's what I did. If I had that NIL deal that now everyone's getting today,
right,
I wouldn't have to worry about money in college, and life would be different.
So what made you want to tell your story? By the way, this is done through Mark Wahlberg's production company. They've done a lot of really great shows. But what made you decide, I want to tell this story?
Sitting in that 6x8 prison cell, I'm seeing all these articles come in, Rolling Stones, Vice Magazine, LA Times, CNN, and no one told the story the right way. And I was like, you know what?
You want to tell it your own way?
I want to tell it how it really happened, because everyone's just going off of, certain characters in this enterprise, right? So I started writing my book, The California Kid in Prison, and I started reaching out to a couple friends, and they're like, dude, we got to get this in front of Wahlberg. I think Wahlberg would love this. And he went to Unrealistic Ideas, which is the documentary company that handles all the docs. And they're like, wow, we love this. We want to be part of this. And I told this story from a federal prison. And you'll see in the 3-part series, you'll see me in my prison khakis. And it's exciting. I was blessed that the Lord was looking after me, and I'm here today telling my story live.
And you've really been able to sort of rebuild your life. You've got a protein ice cream company that you've got right now as well. Do you want to remain close to football?
I would like to speak to, football players, all athletes at that. I would like to just let them know there's two ways you can go in life, and if you cut corners in life, you're going to end up in federal prison like myself, and it's nothing to be proud about. It's the worst place. It's the darkest place on earth, So I hope I can at least get that message out to athletes, like, slow and steady wins the race. Be that turtle.
Have you ever thought about going back into football, maybe coaching or even volleyball too? Have you ever thought of going back into the sports at all?
Yeah, I'm still very big in sports, and as far as my exercise and eating clean, and obviously, like you said, my California ice protein, my protein ice cream, and my idea is to get back into coaching, maybe more motivational, more like working out, what you should be eating nutrition-wise, and helping that way, from putting bad things on the streets to now healthy treats. That's kind of like my motto.
And what do you think of the USC football team now? I mean, obviously they've changed a lot since Pete Carroll left, went back to the NFL. But what do you think of the team right now? And it's also so weird to even say USC is a Big Ten school.
I know. So weird. I think I'm hoping Lincoln Riley will be the answer. Obviously Pete Carroll was the GOAT at USC. I would like to see them do something this year. We've been waiting, and maybe they just need a little pep talk from me.
Yeah, I was going to say, the documentary is going to be the thing that motivates and changes everything. Owen, I thank you so much for telling your story, your bravery, and all of this. And I know so many people are going to be inspired by your story and love this documentary. Of course, it's called Cocaine Quarterback, Signal Caller for the Cartel. It's on Prime Video on September the 25th. Owen, thank you so very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we got a lot more Front Office Sports Today headed your way right after this quick break.
We all know a night out at the club in Vegas can get a little bit pricey, but I've got a tip that can save you a cover fee at some of the hottest nightclubs. All you have to do is sign up online for free with a credible guest list service. Then, just show up before 10:30 and check right in. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes one. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with obviously Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
I was looking at it through my phone at first. I'm like, why is there such a delay? And why are we getting pitch hitters right away? Oh, the pitcher got thrown out for some reason. Maybe he hurt himself. But no, turning out and seeing a brawl was absolutely hilarious to let that one play out. Just the way it is sometimes in baseball. We don't get a lot of good fights and a lot of good brawls and anger, specifically from two teams that aren't going to the playoffs. So good on them for showing that moxie last time. But it's good to see a little bit of a brawl and a little bit of that passion here.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
The reason why I feel like Jared Goff doesn't really enter these MVP conversations. Jared Goff last year was on the team with the best record in football, threw for 4,700 yards, 37 touchdowns, and Tom was never in the race. He was never in the race because we know he's not that guy.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today with Renee Washington and Baker Machado. Well, it's being called the crown jewel for any serious football collector. The Pro Football Hall of Fame, in collaboration with Collect, is releasing a huge poster that is signed by 97 Pro Football Hall of Famers. And this, by the way, could go for a record amount. So let's bring in the founder over at Collect Media, Darren Ravel. Darren, good to see you as always. So tell us a little bit more about this item here.
Well, the Pro Football Hall of Fame had their enshrinement, as they always do every year. And we went to them and said, how about we do something spectacular? And it was a lot of hurrying up to get this done, because when you say the word poster, it's like we had to do the highest quality. I mean, this thing costs a lot of money to even print. And then how do we get everyone, all the living Hall of Famers who are there in Canton, to sign it? And it was an undertaking like you wouldn't imagine. We got everyone in, and everyone behaved in terms of their signature. Looks really great. Jackie Slater maybe a little bit too big, but it's just an unbelievable, massive piece. And to have 97 Hall of Famers sign it on the same weekend. There's 25 of them, and we expect to sell all of them.
Wow.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, with 97 Hall of Famers on each of these 25, what do you anticipate they will go for? Because this is a very special, expensive item. What do you anticipate the numbers?
We are currently coming up with the price. If you are interested, it's HOF at collect.com. I will have the price for you. Yeah, I mean, it's benefiting the Hall of Fame. Obviously, they're a 501c3 nonprofit, so there's a deduction in there as well, I should say, a tax deduction. And but there have been other pieces somewhat like this. So when the NBA announced their top 50, they had 50 guys sign. Actually, 49. Pete Maravich died. Those pieces have gone nuts in the past, and there was, I think, over 200 of those. They gave them to all the players and gave them to executives. So to have this at 25, we really wanted to. Obviously, they couldn't sign a million of these things, but we wanted to keep it tight just to make it special. And it's huge. I mean, it's 60 inches by 40.
Wow! And one of course, the names on there is Emmitt Smith, who has signed his name on there as well.
Yeah, Emmitt. And by the way, I mean, listen. In order to do this and pull this off, you need big guys who say, "Guys, we're doing this." And Emmitt was amazing, right? Like, because these guys get so much for their signature anyway. To pull this off, it's like, the one thing I can tell you is, like, they stopped doing World Series balls because one or two of the guys on the team would say, "But I need $800," and then the economics didn't work out. We had a lot of guys in the Hall of Fame who said, "Let's do this for the Hall of Fame." And guys like Emmitt, with great support, really made this thing happen.
I'm curious, Darren. We know a lot of the items that you guys have in collect, and a lot of things that go up for high auction are, worn items, memorabilia items of things that have been used. But yet, this is something you're creating. So, what's sort of the difference, in your opinion, of sourcing the material versus creating something like this when it comes to going to auction?
Say, okay, let's do this, and then we take care of it. So, getting a printer that can print a massive sheet, the quality, making sure you use the right pens, making sure someone doesn't sign twice, which almost happened.
What? Oh my God! Wait, hold on. Who almost signed twice?
I'm not going to say who, but some guy came back and thought maybe he didn't sign it. So you got to be like, whoa. So, yes. So it is all about, if you come up with the ideas, how do you then execute it? And it requires having the right person. I mean, it's not just a poster. It is, it costs a lot of money to make these things before they even sign them. So we do the manufacturing and then say, okay, we've delivered the whole thing. So I've personally learned in the last year a lot about making things. And it is, you obviously have to really, really be on the timelines and hit everything and get the right partners, which we have.
All right, well, 25 of these exist. If you are interested in this, email hof@cllc.com.
CLLCT.com. We sold 4 already.
4 already? Okay,
I'm one of the 4.
21 are remaining as we speak. Darren Rovell, good stuff as always. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
All right, let's see what's bubbling over at the FOS water cooler. Well, Renee, The Athletic says the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office denied 4 trademark applications filed by Bill Belichick and his girlfriend Jordan Hudson, including the phrases "Do Your Job Bills version," "The Billustrator Bills version," and "No Days Off Bills version." The Trademark Office says those were too close to the ones the Patriots have, which are the same things minus the Bills version.
And they said it was obvious they were going to get rejected from the start. This is in the midst of an already big beef between Bill Belichick and the Patriots around if scouts are allowed at UNC. Mike Vrabel said he is allowed in New England, but it makes me wonder, does he still want to be there? Because why are you trying to trademark 14 different things that are New England Patriots?
Yeah, these would have all been used on clothes, books, podcasts, all that stuff. Guys, that's going to do it for this edition of the show. Renee and I are back for way more fun tomorrow. Bye.